Well, hello everyone and happy Friday. It's digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Friday's version of Before the Four, the live stream where I talk about some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 o'clock newscast. How is everyone doing today? It is the weekend, Junior. That is right. Tomorrow is Saturday and we have made it through another week. So definitely treat yourself tonight, pat yourself on the back, because that is always an accomplishment. But wherever you're watching Before the Four today, whether that's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream, of course, as always, thank you so much for watching and spending just a bit of your Friday afternoon here. Now, of course, we got to talk about the weather. The weekend is almost here, and some of you might be planning something fun. Maybe it's outside. But let's turn over to 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis for a look at the latest forecast. How's it looking, Brad?
Well, it certainly looks like it could rain at any time, but it won't. Overnight tonight, we have a few showers after midnight, but they're running into some drier air, so that's what's killing most of the shower chances. As we go through the weekend, we will have more chances for showers, but thunderstorm chances just don't appear to be happening here. They will be along the Gulf Coast. Right now, it's cloudy. The clouds have been getting thicker throughout the day. 65 degrees in Decatur, 64 in Huntsville, just before 3:30 this Friday afternoon. Getting ready for an okay weekend. At least it's the weekend, right? Temperatures reach the upper 60s farther south, and that's where we had a little more sunshine down there in Russellville. Here's one thing you may be dealing with and not know it yet. The pollen is back, and it's going to be high and probably extreme next week as we start to really warm up. After a little bit of rain Sunday, things will start blooming out there as we go into next week. So just keep that in mind. Extreme pollen and temperatures in the 70s next week. If you're going out this evening, not bad. We've got more clouds out there. Temperatures will stay in the upper 50s most of the night. 8 o'clock area wide, we're looking at upper 50s to near 60. And some drizzle overnight tonight, maybe even some showers. They'll be brief, though, after midnight. That frontal boundary pushes south. Initially, we have sunshine for your Saturday, but the clouds quickly move in, and so does the north wind. The clouds start coming in from the west. There's a secondary disturbance that's coming in Saturday night into Sunday morning and may linger into Sunday afternoon, and that's what's going to lead to temperatures probably only in the 50s both days this weekend. You can see the rain coming in early Sunday morning. It's fairly patchy, so it's not going to be widespread. By noon, we're looking at low to mid 50s, and then more showers coming in late Sunday evening, and those could continue into very early Monday, and that's the only real chance of rain we have for Monday, and that's the big change. But look at the warm-up, 67 Monday, and it gets even better next week. We'll talk about that at 4, 5, 6, and 10.
Well, thank you, Brad. Now, staying in weather news, weather experts nationwide, they are raising concerns after President Donald Trump fired hundreds of National Weather Service and NOAA employees last week. They warned that the firings could impact weather forecasting and the ability to gather important data. The layoffs, of course, coming at a critical time as severe weather and tornado season here in the Tennessee Valley is quickly approaching. The National Weather Service is already understaffed as is, and forecasters across the country worry that more layoffs will cause burnout for the remaining workers. 48 Sarah Grace Kennedy spoke with a local meteorologist, Dr. John Christie, who says he's optimistic that the National Weather Service will continue to receive the needed data to send timely weather alerts to people, adding that he believes NOAA has struggled with its forecasting abilities at times in recent years. Take a listen.
We have fallen behind in terms of the accuracy of our forecast models. We're often 4th or 5th in the world now for forecast accuracy, and so money hasn't been spent wisely at the highest levels to make sure that we can be at the cutting edge. The United States should be first in the ability to forecast accurate weather. And we should also remember that some of these private companies have really done a great job in improving forecasts.
And again, that was Dr. John Christie. He is a local climatologist. But now in Decatur, yesterday 48's Callie Nee spoke in a sit-down interview with interim Decatur Police Chief Nadis Carlisle. Carlisle replaces former police chief Todd Pinion, who decided to step down from the role after growing pressure from the community. Callie Neese with the latest.
Just last week, Carlisle was excited to take on the position of Decatur's interim chief of police. He mentioned that he might want to keep that position permanently, but after just 1 week on the job, his thoughts have changed.
I don't know if I want to stay. I really don't.
Carlisle told me at Monday's city council meeting, Decatur citizens called him a killer, a thief, and a rapist. That's why he believes it's of the utmost importance to improve the public's view of the department.
I want to get the police department and the community talking again. And people need to understand that we are part of the community too. We're people. And that's what, but we got to do the reaching out. We got to go out here and do things.
Carlisle told me he just wants a chance to prove himself. He wants to bring the city together. Carlisle told me he has tried to bridge the gap between the Steve Perkins protesters and the police department, but he's struggling to get group leaders to sit down with him for a conversation. Though Monday's meeting was tough, he is still holding his head up high.
That's just noise. That's all that is. It's just noise. And I'm not worried about that.
Carlisle says he knows that the community will never agree on everything, but wants to keep the peace.
We may not agree on everything, but we can still talk, and we don't have to holler and fuss and throw stuff and threaten and all that. That's just crazy to me.
Carlisle also mentioned bringing back athletic leagues as well as having sit-down meetings with the people of Decatur to help bridge that gap. Reporting in Decatur, Callie Neese 48 News, on your side.
Well, yesterday in Madison County, 5 men accused of killing 2 and injuring others in a 2023 birthday party shooting were indicted. Now, the shooting happened at midnight on January 7th, 2023. Maston Drive on Highway 72 was the location. 48's Faith Delp with the details.
There are now 5 suspects charged with the murders of Quantasia Grant and Caitlin Jenkins, who were killed as gunfire erupted at a birthday party 2 years ago. Madison County deputies say that 11 people were shot at the event center on Highway 72 where the party was being held. This is video from the scene very early that day. The shooting happened around midnight on January 7th, 2023. Investigators arrested 5 suspects at the time, 3 unnamed juveniles and 2 adult suspects, Ashton Elliott and DeMarcus Thompson. Here is video of them from a previous court appearance. They have now been indicted along with 3 newly named suspects, Tamarian Rice, Jaquan Lewis, and Trenton Bolden. All 3 are between 18 and 20 years old. During a previous court hearing, an investigator testified that Elliott has ties to gangs in the area and that they believe he is the one who fired the first shot that night. While we know about Grant and Jenkins and the 9 other people who were injured, the prosecutor over this case says there's a possibility there could be more victims out there. Reporting in Huntsville, Faith Delp, 48 News, on your side.
And an update to that story, one of those 5 charged, 19-year-old Trenton Bolden, is also facing human trafficking charges. Now, in September of 2024, 8 months after that shooting, Bolden was arrested and charged with human trafficking, electronic solicitation of a child, traveling to meet a child for an unlawful sex act, and possession of marijuana. According to court records, he is accused of agreeing to pay a child for sex. He was held in the Limestone County Jail on over a $200,000 bond. Now, at this time, it is unknown on whether Boudin remains in the Limestone County Jail or the Madison County Jail, but we will be sure to update you all as soon as we learn more. But now, staying in Madison County, a woman is being accused of stealing thousands of dollars in federal funds. Megan Tillery worked for Community Action Partnerships of Huntsville, Madison, and Limestone County for 2 years. She was indicted for misusing over $15,000. 48's Nick Ballinger with more.
According to a federal indictment, during Megan Tillery's 2 years working for Community Action Partnership of Huntsville and Limestone counties, she misused over $15,000 in federal funds, some of which was doled out in fraudulent utility payments. Yashika Ray is the director over the Huntsville Office for Community Action and was Tillery's direct supervisor.
Anytime that anything is done against the citizens of our community, it is unfortunate. It leaves a bad stain. It does.
Community Action is a nonprofit tasked with dispersing federal funds from the U.S. Department of Health through the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. Those funds are then distributed to families in need.
Our goal is to be here to help our low-income families become self-sufficient and maintain self-sufficiency.
But the indictment says over the span of a year, 2 people bribed Tillery to cash app them money instead.
No, we did not know that this indictment happened. We were made aware of the allegations a little over 2 years ago.
This isn't Tillery's first criminal charge. In 2018, 3 years before working at Community Action, she served time for stealing her elderly patients' checks and cashing them after their death. So how did that not come up in a background check?
We have advanced to a more sophisticated system with that, but again, at the time of employment, all of our employees are subject to a background check. That was not revealed during our background check.
All it takes to find that arrest is a quick Google search that leads to a WAFF article. Ray says when investigators first started raising questions about Tillery 2 years ago, that's when she stopped showing up to work.
Well, back in 2023, Huntsville police officer Garrett Crumby was shot and killed. And the suspect, Juan Laws, a man who just 14 months prior to the shooting death of Officer Crumby was released on bond for allegedly shooting and killing 2. That brought change when it comes to arrests and how suspects in violent crimes are granted bond. 48's Margot Gray on the bond restriction change.
14 months out on bond. That's all it took for Juan Laws to pick up a new criminal charge. Capital murder for the killing of Huntsville police officer Garrett Crumby, severely wounding another officer, and a woman, which all started as a domestic violence call in 2023. Just 14 months prior, he was released on bond for shooting and injuring 2 other people near the Goodyear in downtown Huntsville. Those cases would serve as an important catalyst for change and would bring another issue to the surface.
And around the same time as Officer Crumby getting killed, we also, as a state, did away with the pistol permit requirement. And previously, if you were on bond for almost any felony, that affected your ability to obtain a pistol permit. When we abolished the pistol permit, it took away that check on people's criminal activity.
The Madison County District Attorney's Office, along with Assistant DA Emily Carroll, discovered another issue left over from the COVID era. Suspects were given minimum bonds to alleviate crowds in the jail.
That was totally appropriate during that time, but that's not a habit we needed to maintain. And we just didn't realize that that was still going on or how we even got there until we started asking questions.
Those questions led to one answer: a bond rule reversal, now slapping every accused criminal with the maximum bond allowed for any crimes involving guns or knives.
Previously, because their bonds were so low, we couldn't even catch them and they could reoffend before we even got their first case on our desk.
And if police or deputies come across a suspect committing a new crime,
they call me at 10 a.m. or at 3 a.m. and they say, Emily, we can see this charge. Do they have a firearm condition on their bond? And I have the ability to look that up anywhere I am on my phone. And if they do, then we do an immediate hold on them.
To Carol, this is about keeping the community safe.
In my opinion, we're preventing future crimes. In my opinion, we are limiting these people's ability to walk back out the doors of the Madison County Jail and go commit another crime.
Well, now coming up after the break, we'll talk about mothers holding a rally in Montgomery 1 year after Governor Ivey signed the IVF immunity bill into law, the 60-year anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and what will be the future of changing those clocks for daylight savings time. Hear what Senator Tuberville had to say about that coming up in just 1 minute. Well, hello and welcome back to Before the Four. Now in a bit of state news, yesterday mothers gathered at the Alabama State House in Montgomery, knowing this time last year the possibility of their child's life was in jeopardy. WSFA's Julia Avant on the IVF immunity bill being signed into law 1 year later.
400 pregnancies through in vitro fertilization have been successful in Alabama since the IVF ruling was reversed this time last year. Some of those mothers rallying for IVF, holding their children close, knowing their possibility of life was in jeopardy.
I was 6 weeks pregnant and headed to my first 6-week ultrasound.
Corinne O'Brien was told on February 16th her pregnancy would likely not work due to the Alabama Supreme Court's ruling that day. They deemed all embryos children, giving them the rights of other unborn children. Providers paused fertility treatment at IVF clinics statewide.
Thousands of advocates across our state sent over 33,000 emails to legislators. And over 350 of us showed up to the State House to tell our stories and ask our legislators to fix this quickly.
And they did. An immunity bill was passed in 5 days, the fastest a bill can pass in the state, with Governor Kay Ivey signing the bipartisan bill 9 minutes after it passed in the Senate.
IVF is pro-life as it gets. It creates families across our state.
But the fight isn't over. O'Brien, an IVF mother and founder of Fight for Alabama Families, says the bill has faced challenges in court and could limit even more births.
There has been lots of discussion about regulating IVF, which would be harmful to our families. Burdensome regulations would increase cost and risk and would push families that could afford it to seek IVF services in other states.
And staying in state news, today marks 60 years since the Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, which came to be known as Bloody Sunday. Now on March 7th, 1965, civil rights activists organized the march to the press for voter registration rights for African Americans in the South. However, they were violently confronted by local authorities along the way. Demonstrators were beaten, sprayed with tear gas, and charged by troops on horses. The shocking scene was broadcast across America and compelled Washington to respond with the Civil Rights Act of 1965. The cities of Selma and Montgomery will hold memorial events throughout the weekend, including a rally and a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. But awesome situation there this weekend. Definitely, if you're heading out to Montgomery, make sure to check out some of those events. But don't forget to spring forward 1 hour this Sunday as daylight savings time officially begins. While the changing of the clocks will for sure happen this Sunday, the future of doing so looks uncertain. Here's Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville on daylight savings time. Take a listen.
For years, I've received countless calls to make daylight savings time permanent. You know, it's one of the top issues I keep hearing from people all over Alabama and all over the country. I ask about it everywhere I go. I think we're all tired of switching our clocks back and forth. You know, I recently introduced, as you know, the Sunshine Protection Act. It would make daylight savings time permanent. But I just got a feeling, and I haven't talked to the president about this, but I just got a feeling with that coming down the pipe that something's going to happen now. I don't know whether which way he's going to go with this. If he's going to leave it the way it is or go to daylight savings time, you just never know. I've heard both things, but I would imagine that Donald J. Trump is going to get involved in this in the very near future.
And now in national news, just 2 days after the Trump tariffs went into effect against the nation's top trading partners, the president reversed course, holding off taxing some imports from Mexico and Canada for now. And after weeks of widespread firings at federal agencies, the president told his cabinet secretaries they're in charge of who stays and who goes. NBC's Alice Barr is in Washington with the latest.
If you would have seen the people yesterday, maybe...
President Trump walking back his 25% tariffs on more imports from Canada and Mexico for 1 month, just 2 days after putting the levies in place, adamant the reversal was not prompted by concerns over higher prices for U.S. consumers and stock market drops.
I'm not even looking at the market because long term, the United States will be very strong with what's happening here.
The temporary reprieve on everything from avocados to auto parts targets goods covered by the U.S. Mexico-Canada trade agreement negotiated in the first Trump term. But about 60% of Canadian imports and half of those from Mexico are still subject to the 25% tariffs. And all bets are off 1 month from now when President Trump wants reciprocal tariffs on virtually every U.S. trading partner to begin.
We just weren't treated right. We were ripped off.
American businesses in limbo.
30 more days to worry about it.
A new report shows the U.S. economy added 151,000 jobs and unemployment ticked up to 4.1% in the first full month of the new Trump presidency. But economists say it's likely too early to capture the full impact of DOGE layoffs. That while President Trump is now proposing a more measured approach toward federal workforce firings.
I want the cabinet members to keep good people. I don't want to see a big cut where a lot of good people are cut.
The president posting praise for the Department of Government Efficiency while noting it's now up to cabinet secretaries to be very precise as to who will remain and who will go, using a scalpel instead of a hatchet.
If they can cut, it's better. And if they don't cut, then Elon will do the cutting.
Uncertainty from the workforce to the markets as President Trump presses ahead. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And staying in national news, let's talk about Starship, the massive spacecraft Elon Musk says will one day take people to Mars. Exploded during its latest test flight, raining down debris from the sky and temporarily causing chaos at airports across southern Florida. NBC's Marissa Parra with the details.
What is that, like a meteor shower?
A shocking sight in the sky, just minutes into the 8th test flight of SpaceX Starship.
There it is. Boom. Oh my God.
The world's largest rocket spinning out of control before breaking into pieces. Fiery debris visible in the sky across Florida and parts of the Caribbean. The explosion even disrupting air travel, the FAA temporarily diverting planes and grounding aircraft for nearly an hour to avoid any falling pieces of debris. Flights were disrupted at Florida hubs like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando.
So I looked out my kitchen window and I could see Starship rotating around. It was a bright white flash in the sky. I wanted to make sure first and foremost that it wasn't tumbling at us.
It was the 8th test mission for Starship, which SpaceX CEO Elon Musk hopes one day can reach Mars. Musk posting overnight, quote, "Rockets are hard." The scene almost identical to a similar mishap less than 2 months ago, when Starship Test Flight 7 also ended in a ball of flames. A SpaceX internal investigation says that failure was likely due to leaking fuel propellant. This time around, the company made upgrades to the spacecraft. But while the rocket's booster was able to successfully return to the launch pad for the 3rd time in a row, just minutes later,
you can see we've lost several engines.
SpaceX pointing to a, quote, energetic event in the aft portion of Starship, causing the rocket to lose orientation known as attitude control, then all communication.
We did lose contact with the ship. Unfortunately, this happened last time too.
And just like last time, pieces of the spacecraft came raining back down to Earth. The FAA once again launching a mishap investigation to determine what went wrong, adding Starship will remain grounded until that investigation is complete.
We're going to be right back here in the not too distant future, and we're going to get a ship to space.
And now let's talk about the stories that you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. The latest on both the Keith Sullivan trial in Fort Payne and DeKalb County out there and Kevin Deloney out in the Shoals. Get those details coming up. Weapon detectors to be placed in Huntsville elementary schools. 48's Noah Cowell is on that this afternoon. The latest on medical marijuana here in the state of Alabama. 48's Callie Neese will have that coming up. And of course, you cannot forget it. It's Kitchen Cops Day. get all the latest scores from across the valley coming right up on our air, and it's also online, so check that out. Just go to our website, WAFF.com. And these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. But it is about that time. I know you all have been waiting for it. Let's pull it back up. And this is continuing on from yesterday's 48 Facebook question of the day. What makes Huntsville, Alabama unique? You all had super awesome responses yesterday, and you had so many responses that I had to do a second day for this 48 Facebook question of the day, of course. And let's see what else you all had to say. Let's see. Jenny said, aside from crazy drivers, Huntsville Havoc hockey, my dad and I love going to the games together. Gotta love the Havoc. Such an awesome time. I actually have not made my way out to a Havoc game this season, but I believe there's 4 more home games left, so I'll have to go check that out. And of course, the Space and Rocket Center. Can't forget that amazing place as well, because I love seeing the Saturn V when coming or leaving Huntsville. Absolutely. Those are all very unique things here in the Rocket City, 100%. Jenny, thank you so much. Steven said, it is the only city in North Alabama named Huntsville. And that's very true. That is a very good point. And that is another thing that makes the city of Huntsville so unique. Steven, thank you so much. James said, overhearing conversations about code writing and payload calculations in heavy Southern accents. Hey, I heard once that just because us Southerners talk slow does not mean we think slow. And that is exactly the case that James Lloyd makes right there. You got a lot of smart cookies here, without a doubt. James, thank you so much. Michael said, our talented music scene. And I want to say the entire North Alabama region has an incredible music scene. The Shoals you got out there in Fort Payne, the Sand Mountain area, you got a lot of really good musicians. And then, of course, the Huntsville music scene is very good as well. So many talented musicians out there, and it amazes me. Well, Michael, thank you so much. Awesome comment. And then Elena said, Montesano and Burritt on the mountain. And yes, I mean, that is another crazy big mountain that makes Huntsville, Alabama unique, 100%. Awesome comment there. And everyone who commented, thank you so much. It always makes my day, 100%. And that is just about it for today's Before the Four. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Do something fun this weekend. Whatever you choose to do, be careful doing it, be safe doing it, but still have a good time, 100%. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 Digital app, the 48 First Alert Weather app, and the 48 Sport Zone app. Turn on those push notifications, and you will never miss a breaking news story. But that is it for today. But of course, thank you so much for watching, and you all have a great weekend.